The Mill on the Floss is a tragedy propelled by the immense self sacrifice of Maggie and their financial woes. Greetings, fellow literary aspirants. This is Asad Iman on the Assimilators. Let's trace out the tragic elements in The Mill on the Floss. Introductory. The Mill on the Floss is a tragic novel that hit the shelves in 1860. For starters, this is a tragic story of a family named Tullivers trying their luck through the Dalcourt Mill on Floss, which is obviously the name of a river. The story is composed of many tragic characters, including Mr. Tulliver, Maggie Tulliver, and Tom Tulliver, each bearing his own version of plight, which ends in the total extermination of the Tulliver family. What is a tragedy and how does it relate with the mill on the floss? To define tragedy, Aristotle gives his perfect definition. Quote, tragedy then is a representation of an action that is worth serious attention, complete in itself, and of certain magnitude in a language enriched by a variety of artistic devices appropriate to the several parts of the play, presented in the form of action, not narration, by the means of pity and fear, bringing about the catharsis of such emotions. End quote. To simply put, a tragedy is a story of a series of adventures and sufferings, which ends on a hero's death. Sure, his definition went straight for Oedipus Rex and other Greek tragedies, but this novel is a different case. A tragedy is formed through the tragic flaw of the hero or by fate or some supernatural powers hunting him, or it can take place through a certain deed of the protagonist or some social beliefs. Almost all the traits denoted in the previous line can be traced in this novel. Fate in the Mill on the Floss. Fate plays a double role in the novel. Drives your bubbles of imagination and I, the flood, gushing forth, and Tom and Maggie meet for their last time. The flood signifies the scornful side of fate and the final reconciliation of the two brother and sister. Somehow shows the positive side of fate. Another incident which can partially blame to the tyranny of fate is Mr. Tulliver's getting defeated from winning the lawsuit to reclaim his ownership of the Dalcourt mill. Maggie's tragic flaw. The most obvious tragic flaw in Maggie is her self sacrificing attitude, which develops after reading a book authored by Thomas A. Kempis, which also involves her sympathetic attitude towards Philip Stephen Guest and Tom Tulliver, which ultimately results in dismaying everyone. Maggie strives hard to restore her social status at St. Ogg's after her elopement with Stephen Guest, which ends practically in her own death. If she had been cautious enough of her doings, she would have secured the lives of herself and her brother. But it will be a sheer injustice to say that Maggie is the sole responsible for hers and her brother's tragedy. Clock back to the early chapters, and you will notice that Maggie is treated with a typical treatment which is commonly observed in our rural community, that girls are inferior to the boys. Maggie was also considered inferior to her brother Tom, and her family remained greatly anxious of her hair, her clothes, and her behavior in general. Her family, including her brother, used to taunt her excessively, which filled her with the burning flames of rage and jealousy. All she craved was being loved and cared, which she found in Stephen and later in Philip, which gradually led her to her tragedy. Conclusion. The Mill on the Floss is characterized by its tragic environment, which forces the Tullivers to slowly move towards their tragic destination through the unjust sovereign of fate and the outcome of their own actions collectively. Sources used for this video are now being displayed.